Still with us, we have attorneys Wendy Patrick, David Bruno. Wendy, let me start with you. Tell us what you might expect from this sentencing hearing that, of course, we're going to bring you live on Court TV.
I would expect, Ashley and David, this is going to be a very long, drawn-out sentencing hearing with an enormous amount of factors in mitigation and aggravation. Now, I would say that simply because of the high-profile nature of the case. You know, this is one of those cases where you do have somebody that was a beloved celebrity and now is a convicted criminal. So there may be people that want to come in and testify as character witnesses. It's not in the guilt phase anymore, but it matters to judges in deciding what they need to take into consideration in fashioning a sentence that's fair. Remember, it also has to be fair to the victim. And she's no doubt going to be there too, or at least people that represent her interests, in order to talk about why this defendant deserves the type of punishment that no doubt the prosecution is going to come in and argue, which will probably be far more than obviously the defense is going to be arguing. Big difference in mitigants and aggravants at the sentencing.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, David, some of the information that I've learned is that she allegedly is still with him, that she is still in a relationship with him. And if that's the case, how does that affect a sentencing hearing, if it does?
Yeah, personally, I think the court's going to see right through that. Look, it's out of her hands now, and it's out of his hands right now. It's up to the court on sentencing. So, like, if there was some reluctance on the behalf of the victim, I mean, some prosecutors have to make very difficult decisions whether or not to compel someone like that that's reconciled. And in domestic violence, we see it all the time. Because of the cycle of domestic violence, well, there'll be domestic violence acts, then there'll be that honeymoon period and things will get good and then bad again and things like that. So it's actually fairly frequently seen in the domestic violence context. But even if she wants to stand up and ask for leniency, really it's too late for that because we're past the plea deals, we're up to sentencing for the court, and the court's going to make a determination. And as the DA has said in the recent press release, this individual is exposed to anywhere from 12 to 20 years. And it's interesting to hear from the defendant in the soundbite leading up to this commentary that he was offered a non-custodial probation sentence, and he turned it down. Look at the turn of events for this individual. He had the opportunity to walk away without any jail. He testified. He was not found credible. The jury convicted him, and he is now looking at least 12 years in prison for this, irrespective of what the victim or the alleged victim or the girlfriend stand up and ask this court for.
And David, you make such a great point because I remember watching him testify in this trial, and my takeaway was he basically said, it wasn't me, I wasn't the aggressor, it was her, and blamed her. And it was almost, Wendy, like he was so convinced in his head that he was right and he didn't do anything wrong, that of course I'm not going to accept a deal that offers me no time in jail. What are your thoughts?
You know, Ashley, have we been talking about a push that may have been something that had more credibility, but not with injuries this serious? And, you know, there's a reason I phrased my last answer the way I did. The victim or someone that represents her interests, because you will have people that are representing the true interest that she should have, which is her safety. Many domestic violence cases end up not resolving after a conviction, and courts have to take that into consideration in deciding what kind of stay-away orders they want to impose. You often have victims coming to court and saying, I don't want any stay-away orders. I want to be able to have free reign to being visited by this individual. Now, that doesn't apply here. He's going to be in custody. But nonetheless, you will see both of those interests being represented at sentencing.
David, in your experience as a former prosecutor, would you have seen a 12 to 20-year sentence for a conviction like this of assault and kidnapping and the injuries that we just saw in those pictures?
Yeah, I would have, especially given, look at those out-of-court statements from the defendant. There's no remorse. There's no acceptance of responsibility. He got up on that stand and he had every right to do so. Don't get me wrong. It's a constitutional right that defendants have to take the stand on their own behalf. But I always caution defendants, and I speak about this fairly regularly in the press, that if you take the stand, you're going to make the focus on you, and that's an excellent way for jurors to convict when they don't believe defendants.
All right. Thank you so much, David Bruno, Wendy Patrick. I always enjoy having you on. Thank you for being with us today. Of course, I also